Hello, Sam.
So we've been trying to wrap our heads around river recreation. In some places, we've been really wildly successful at it. In some places, we haven't. And we really are relying on you guys as the user, the eyes and ears of the public. So encouraging you to listen to other members of the public to really help us with identifying how we can improve our management of waterways and recreation on those waterways. So again, thank you for doing this. I know it's a lot of time and it might feel thankless at times, but I do thank you and so does the department for stepping up and doing this.
Thank you, Deb. Yeah. And I have one other colleague here, Sarah, if you'd like to provide a introduction.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Sells. I'm the Assistant Unit Leader at the Montana Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit over at the University of Montana here in Missoula. I'm on the faculty there. I'm employed by USGS, so I'm a research ecologist with the feds, and part of my job is actually helping out with facilitating groups like this to work through difficult decisions. So we'll talk lots more about that in the coming days next week. And I'll talk a tiny bit more about that in a little bit here. But yeah, just for now, I will be helping to facilitate this process. And one of my other colleagues, Sarah Bassing, you get two Sarahs in this group, will also be helping me facilitate this. So you'll meet her next week as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Sarah and Deb. And yeah, as I mentioned, starting kind of through this process, we were able to identify some quality applicants, and we're really excited to have all of you on board. We thought you all excelled in your experiences across Montana in terms of river recreation. We think we have a really great council here that represents a lot of types of use as well as a lot of experiences across the state. We focused a lot on trying to make sure we had as much regional representation as possible, and trying to also identify as many types of use as well as that expansion of the user as well. And so in those experiences, and we're really excited to have you guys all here convening kind of for this first introductory meeting. And so I had asked each of you kind of to think about three questions that I provided to you. If you could respond to those and kind of introduce yourself to the team, and kind of respond to those three questions that I had presented to you. And I can if anyone wants to raise their hand and go first, we can do it that way. Otherwise, I can kind of identify a few of you on the screen here and just kind of go one by one. It looks like Dante is ready to roll. So we'll go ahead and go ahead, Dante.
Muted? Oh, there we go. Hi, I'm Dante Bonanini. I live down here on the Bighorn River. I'm a guide. I've been doing this for about 11 years. I grew up in Helena, lived in Bozeman for 13 some odd years. I've been using the river for a really long time. I know what it's like to be the tuber floating down the river to the guy floating down making money with a drift boat. I super passionate about the health of the river. I'm on the board of the Bighorn River Alliance, and I just really enjoy river recreation. It's kind of my special place. Um, anyways, that's who I am. Thanks.
Thanks, Dante. And yeah, hoping that we can all kind of, yeah, introduce ourselves and provide just, yeah, a little bit background on your river recreation experience, maybe some of the professional expertise you might bring to the council as well, and then kind of some of that teamwork and background you have with collaborating with others as well. So thank
Liam,
you. Yeah,
I'm gonna just call on people so we could go through it faster.
yeah,
So if
sounds
that's
great.
okay. All right. So I'm gonna go to Abby next.
All right. Hi everyone. My name is Abby Thomas. I reside in Gardner, Montana.
I'm a field educator here for Yellowstone Forever, which is a nonprofit partner. So I teach people all over the world about what this ecosystem is like. And part of that is the river, especially a huge flooding event that we had 2 years ago. I'm also from Dillon, Montana, and grew up fishing and rafting with my family in that area. It's a very popular fishing destination. So it's definitely been a key component of my life. And I've also worked as a river quality technician for the Bureau of Land Management in Idaho.
Thank you, Abby. We're going to go to Ben next.
Howdy, y'all. Name's Ben, here in Missoula, Montana, and recognize a couple faces from years on the river. I've been in Montana since '95. I'm a Midwest transplant. Spent whole life on the water. Had a little canoe and kayak business for about a decade or so. Went then to work for FWP. Actually, I was a ranger for FWP and the BLM for about a decade. And now I currently work in training, swiftwater rescue for SAR teams, military. And then to make money, then we fish really expensive things out of the river, like asphalt or oil or planes or trains or whatever. So yeah, just kind of a real diverse. Definitely would echo Dante's. I was at one point a tuber on the Blackfoot in the height of the we won't call it the heyday, but a different time on the Blackfoot, and then have progressed to this point. Joined the team to maybe bring some of the versatility of being a river recreationalist to somebody who has made an entire living off of it as an adult. And hopefully just yeah, have an opinion, but I'm super excited to hear what everybody else has got to say on where we should go.
Thanks, Ben. Next we have Derek. Is Derek here? Derek is not here yet. Okay. So Marcus, you're up.
Thanks, Deb. Hi, everybody. Marcus Strange. I currently work for the Property and Environmental Research Center, but I have a long background in state policy around wildlife conservation and land conservation. I am originally from State College, Pennsylvania, but I moved up here right after finishing my undergrad down in Utah. So I've been in Helena for 12 years now. And like I said, public policy has been what I've done professionally, and that's really been centered around collaboration. How do we bring diverse stakeholders together with sometimes differing points of view on how to accomplish a task, and how do we come together and do it effectively? To that end, I've been on a few of these working groups with FWP. So I'm excited to see a bunch of folks that I know and get to do this all over again and hopefully come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Thank you, Marcus. Next is Robert.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robert Ray. I'm a resident of Helena, Montana. Retired from the Department of Environmental Quality about 2 years ago. Worked for DEQ for about 22 years in the non-point source program. So my background is water quality, with specific connection to river recreation. Before I moved to Montana 22 years ago, I lived in Colorado in the Colorado River headwaters area. And even before that, high school, I was recreating in the Boundary Waters in Minnesota in canoes. More recently, Colorado did a lot of rafting plus canoeing, both whitewater and tandem flat water canoeing. I've been recreating for many, many years in many, many different states, familiar with different permitting process from National Park Service to BLM, so on and so forth. So familiar with a lot of different ways that different rivers are managed. Um, part of what motivated me to apply for the RAC or River Recreation Advisory Committee. I'm on the Blackfoot Challenge Board, have been since basically I moved to Montana for the last 23 years, working with them on non-point source issues. More recently have been involved with their River Recreation Committee and Water Quality Committee as part of the larger Blackfoot Challenge work on watershed issues. So we've been working on recreation for a number of years, whether it's fishing regulations to management of put in takeout sites on the river, so on and so forth. The way that Fish, Wildlife, and Parks manages the overnight campsite, so on and so forth, have also been discussed at the Blackfoot Challenge board meetings. I am representing myself, not the Blackfoot Challenge, specifically on this committee, and just want to make that clear. These are my personal opinions and not those of the challenge, although I hope that as the challenge move forward on their work on recreation, that the work that's being done as part of this committee might inform some of the work that they're continuing to work on. And how do I plan to collaborate with others throughout this process? Well, my background with Non-Point Source, the program through the Clean Water Act is a voluntary program. It has no regulatory authority associated with Non-Point Source. So for many, many years, I've been involved in collaborative work with many different groups, watershed groups around the state. I'm very familiar with the different watershed groups from around the state, and hope that as part of this group that I can also reach out to not just members of this committee, but also some of the wider interested parties, whether it's the Bighorn, the Big Hole, the Blackfoot, and the list just goes on and on. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Robert. Next we have Ross.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Ross Johnson. I grew up in Conrad, on a farm between Conrad and Shelby. Been on all the rivers up there and everywhere around Montana, recreating and working my whole life. So hunting, fishing, cleaning screens, irrigating, moving pipe, from A to Z. Moving pipe is what made me reconsider my life choices. And I went to undergrad out of state for 4 years and came back and went to law school, UM. My family and I currently live here in Great Falls, Montana, where we continue to just recreate on the river. I don't make any money off of anything to do with the river. I do, unlike Mr. Ray, part of what I do at our law firm is file lawsuits against polluters, not non-point source. We try to find the point source so we can get them to clean it up. But that's really the only working knowledge I have with waterways. Why did I decide to sign up for this? Well, first, I didn't realize it'd be 3 days. But then, when you really think about it, this is important. It seems to me that from a recreationalist standpoint, a lot of things have changed in Montana, particularly in the last 5 years, as far as how busy the rivers are. And, if you just sit back and do nothing, you're not helping, and you can't really expect anything to improve. When it doesn't, you can't really complain about it. So that's why I'm here. And then the last question was, how do I plan to collaborate with others? I'm here to listen and I mean, if I have a good thought, they might be few and far between, but maybe share those with everybody and mostly just listen.
Great, thanks, Ross. We have Sam next.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Sam Schmidt. I'm out of Great Falls. I am a 27-year grain buyer here in the state for a flour mill. But just river floating fishing is my passion. Average 35 to 40 days a year, just traveling all over the state and floating and fishing somewhere. Kind of a streamer junkie, so don't hold that against me. But yeah, I found out about this committee, and really I just want to make sure there's a balance of any decisions that are made. That one puts the resource ahead of anything else. But two, allowing public access, outfitting access, and then some landowner issues too. So I just want to see balance in any decision.
Thank you. And before going to Todd, I'm going to jump back to Derek, actually, to see if he can unmute and come on.
All right, can anybody hear me?
We can hear you, Derek. Yep.
Oh gosh, guys, sorry, I'm having issues with video. Sorry, I could not join by video. Hi everyone, my name is Derek Young. I live up in the Flathead. In my past history, I've been a recreational river user for more than 30 years. Started whitewater rafting with my parents when I was about 12 years old. I've been an active fly fisherman and river user for the remainder of my life, and at one point in time was a fly fishing guide on the Yakima River in Washington State, where I also founded a Trout Unlimited chapter to focus on restoring West Slope cutthroat populations in the headwaters of the Yakima River. And from there, just really rallied around habitat work, developing relationships in the community, raising money to create programs that would have impact on fish populations. And then I moved to Montana about 4 years ago and immediately started looking for an opportunity to get involved with my local watershed on the Flathead. And I joined the Flathead Rivers Alliance as a river ambassador and did that for a couple of years. So then my interest in joining this advisory council is just continuing, that work with river conservation work, with interfacing with user groups, whether they're guides, outfitters, tubers, visitors. The Flathead area gets a lot of folks from around the world, and this rivershed is, got some great potential, and I'm all about protecting the resource for now and for future generations. And in terms of the collaboration piece, I think that what's really important in my experience is fostering open communication and trust, working together towards a consensus, and then, communicating expectations up front about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it are important things. So thank you for allowing me to join. I really look forward to working with all of you on the call today and being an effective voice for our resources and our communities.
Thanks, Derek. And last we have Todd.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad being last, but I guess I'll go. My name is Todd Frank. I own the Trailhead and Trailhead River Sports in Missoula, as well as a little teeny tiny inflatable brand called Soar Inflatable Canoes. I've been in the river recreation business for all of my adult life. I've served in a number of capacities on CAC. Sorry, I think is that Derek? It wasn't muted. Sorry. And I served on the CAC board. I've been engaged with FWP, on issues for a long time. I'm 61. I grew up in Billings. I fished the Bighorn River a lot before it closed back in the day, and then fished it again when it reopened to the public, and came to college in Missoula in 1981. So I've been sort of engaged around river recreation. I feel like I have a really good handle on representing what the average citizen out there is interested in. My customer base, we have a large outdoor store as well as a very large paddle sports specific location in Missoula. What motivated me to join or to request to be part of this was that crowding and use on rivers has been something that's been talked about in Montana. The first statewide river group that was convened, I think, was in maybe '92. There was a group of people that worked on the Blackfoot for, I think, over a year. There has been a group that has worked on the Madison, I think, put in a lot of time in on that. And so my perspective was that, maybe the third time's a charm and we'll actually be able to come up with something. My hope in trying to be realistic about it is that my motivation and my hope is that we come up with a framework for future potential changes to the way we manage rivers in Montana. Not that we're going to come out of this with a new set of rules for any particular river in the state, but that we understand sort of what needs to happen if we're going to continue to ratchet up, changes to the way that we manage the rivers here. So that's really what motivated me to be involved, because it feels like we've tried this 3 or 4 times and it hasn't been very successful in the past. Not me personally, but that the state and FWP have. As far as collaboration goes, I serve on a bunch of boards. I serve on a national board for a retail group that I belong to. I've been on the CAC board, so I've been in a lot of collaborative environments, and feel like I generally have something positive to add. I'm pretty solution oriented and goal oriented, and so I hope that comes through, and that I'm able to collaborate with a bunch of people who come from different perspectives. So I also, like Ben said, I see a few familiar faces on the group, so that'll be sort of nice. But yeah, that's who I am. I've been at it for a long time. So I think we celebrated our 50th year in business this May. I've been involved there for 31 years, so a little more than half of that time. So I'm not saying I'm old, but I might be accused of that. So I'm psyched at the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you all. The only one we're missing, and he hasn't been able to join us yet, is Scott. So you guys will meet him next week. Liam, I'll just turn this over to you to move on through the agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Deb, and thanks everyone for the introductions. Yeah, Scott might hop on here in a little bit, and so if he does hop on, we'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. And I just wanted to kind of briefly touch on kind of the RRAC, kind of your roles and responsibilities. We've, through the application process, we made it clear that the in-person meetings would be a major part of your responsibilities, and being able to be in person for those meetings in Helena next week. The RAC serves as an advisory capacity to the department, so you'll be providing recommendations on river recreation management to the department, and those recommendations will be times from what you guys come up with as a group. So we don't have any FWP staff or other agency staff on this group. This is you as as an individual working together with your fellow RRAC members. And so just wanted to make kind of that, and that'll be through your kind of process of decision making to then provide those recommendations to the department. Ideally, kind of thinking about the timeline that we have ahead of us as you guys meet next week. Looking at possible, if you need to have some follow-up meetings after the in-person meetings, we'll facilitate that for you as well, in hopes that we have kind of a draft recommendations by early November, in hopes that the final recommendations you as a council have by mid-December to the department. And so, and this is not, kind of the expand the conversation here. This is not siloed. We've done a bit of other kind of legwork in terms of we've sent out a river recreation survey. Hopefully you guys have all been aware of that. We've kind of closed, but we'll have a review and summary report available for you when you meet in person next week. We also had 3 scoping workshops about a month ago. to solicit some public input on what we're kind of seeing out there in Montana around river recreation management. We wanted to be able to provide you all with, as you kind of think about your roles and responsibilities as in this council, be able to kind of provide you with the current trends, challenges, aspects to river recreation management that not only the department but the public is seeing, and get that directly from them. So we'll have that available kind of in a summary report, both the survey and the workshop results and feedback that we received available for you starting in kind of the beginning of the process with next week's in-person meetings. And kind of before that, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll also provide you with a few documents and some informational material just to kind of get you caught up to speed a little bit on what is out there currently, what FWP currently kind of uses as a resource for managing river recreation use kind of across the state. We won't overwhelm you, of course, so it'll just be primarily our planning manual with some summary and overview of kind of the rules and regulations that are currently in place. And we'll ask that as your responsibility to review those documents and kind of come prepared and kind of understanding what those rules and regs are, and then kind of what that planning manual is in that resource that's being used currently. So it's a little bit of talking right now about the RRAC kind of rules and responsibilities. I want to give an option for anyone to ask any questions right now within the group about that before we move on to just some of the meeting logistics for next week. And you can go ahead and raise your hand, or if you can unmute yourself, feel free to do that too. Robert, go ahead.
Robert.
Robert, you're muted.
Thank you. I assume that what I heard was you're looking for some sort of recommendations from the committee that would be in a summary document and available to both staff and the commission by December. That's kind of my summary of where we're going with this group. And then once that final report is accepted by the group and forwarded, that will kind of disappear. Is that correct?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Robert. Yeah, so at that time, this group, the RAC, will dissolve as your role and responsibility of providing those final recommendations will go to the department, and at that point you would dissolve as a council. Now, that being said, of course, those recommendations, depending on what those recommendations are, there will be, in thinking ahead of like implementation of those recommendations and what the department does with those recommendations as well, there will be, most likely future involvement capacities and opportunities for you all to be involved. It just would not necessarily be as an RRAC member. Marcus, I see your hand is raised.
Thanks. Did you already say if we'll have access to that survey that you guys have done? We will. Excellent. Will we have access to any other resources in terms of data, day use, that kind of stuff to help us inform the discussion?
Yeah, great question, Marcus. And yeah, so we'll have I'm compiling all the information and all those responses from the survey itself. And I'll be able to we'll provide that kind of in a summary report. We do have all of those responses available to you if you'd like to, kind of scroll through those. Just want to make, that survey itself and the way the methodology was is it was open to anyone to respond throughout the state. And so this is more of both the workshop and the survey itself were more of a scoping opportunity. And so we wouldn't necessarily be able to define, okay, it's not a census of data collected. And so we're not going to be able to say this is, exactly what every Montanan thinks, but it does give you guys some kind of sideboards on where some of those highlighted challenges and concerns are across the state. And then I think that answers so you'll have access to that, and then we'll have additional information and data available to you as you kind of run through these in-person meetings when you see fit, and when it might impact kind of how you move forward in the decisions that you're making. I see Todd and Robert both have their hands raised.
Todd's first.
Liam, do you know whether or not you will have access to all of that sort of historical use data, as an example, use data on places like the Blackfoot or some of that work that was done, before by these organizations, by groups that have worked on these, going back to the statewide group in the 90s? Will we be able to look at the work that they did? Will we have access to the work that they did on the Big Hole Beaverhead 20 years ago and on the Madison? In other words, if we ask for, will the department be able to pull up historical documentation for the other stuff that you guys have worked on in the past 30 years or so?
Yeah, Todd, thanks for the question. Yeah, we'll have information and data available to kind of as we can find it, and where I think it's an important topic to kind of bring up here is because we're looking at this from a statewide level. So I understand your question about asking, like specific day and use levels on certain rivers and to extents. But hopefully kind of throughout this process, we're keeping in mind that scope of working at this from a statewide level. And so it might, as important as it might be to identify how much use is at one FAS versus another FAS, I think we want to make sure that you guys are capturing kind of the essence of looking at this from a statewide level of, where are those capacities maybe at a broader scale. And we will have reports. We'll have Mike Lewis, our human kind of dimension researcher, available to be there to help. He's been working on this for a long period of time, and he'll have all of that information. We've compiled a lot of our river kind of management plans as well. So you'll be able to kind of, compare and contrast what is being kind of deployed at this time, and then what you might think works, doesn't work, etc. I think Robert, you had your hand raised, and then Abby.
My question was very similar to Todd's. I am interested in specifically use data, maybe not at the individual FAS. Well, maybe I should say certainly not at the individual FAS for this statewide work, but more as a usage trends statewide for recreational purposes. I think that would be very useful if there's anything like that you've been collecting.
Yeah, Robert, I think that's been an interest of the departments, and also just a challenge we've had as well. As a department, we don't have any comprehensive data collection process out there. We have fisheries data from historical, like fisheries, angler, and creel surveys out there. Nothing that's going to be comprehensive to the extent, I think, of this, certainly not by type of use, and possibly varies depending on what river areas or watersheds where we're collecting actual use or visitation data. So there will be there'll be information, probably some information gaps as well, but around kind of where we can kind of parse out certain areas that might have that data and how it's collected, but certainly not across the entirety of the state. Abby?
Now, are we looking at data specifically collected through Fish and Wildlife, or are we looking at data that's also going to be found from external groups? So, such as I've had Upper Yellowstone Watershed Group reach out to me already, and they provided me documents on assessments they have already done on use in the general area. So I'm just wondering if we're looking at stuff from those kinds of groups, or if we can even bring in some of the data from.
Yeah, Abby, I'll jump in there. Absolutely. I mean, we expect you guys to not just bring your own opinions, but also to hear from others. You guys are representing the public on a lot of these issues. Whether you thought you signed up for that or not, you're going to probably hear from a lot of folks. And so you're welcome to bring all the data. We'll be providing you with plenty of stuff that FWP has done and collected over the years in collaboration with others. And what we really are trying to avoid is trying to, I guess, stack the deck, really. We want to give you enough information so you guys could be efficient and effective, but we also want you guys to represent what you're seeing out there and what the public's seeing out there. So we're going to provide as much as we possibly can without overwhelming you, like Liam said. But please do bring, any other information, whether it be, literally documents or opinions from the public. We really encourage that.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah, Sam.
The survey that we filled out, is it possible that we could send that out to just our own networks, just to collect some more data?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the question, Sam. We kind of closed that survey just so we'll be able to do the analysis portion of it, without kind of having continual responses. As a group, if you start to identify as needing something like that, or being an asset to expand that survey or have that survey released more broadly and what that kind of looks like, that certainly could be a recommendation of your group. I think at this time we'll provide kind of that overview and that scoping data that we collected at this point, and then we can that's part of the resource, the data collection, and we've talked already a lot about data collection and what that role is in some of this decision making and how it might impact what you guys recommend as well. And so at this point we wouldn't kind of deploy that further. I think we'll use that as kind of the scoping of some of the issues and challenges that will be presented to you guys, and then you guys can work off of that. And then down the road, if you guys see there's a big challenge with being able to collect information like that, we can certainly discuss, you guys could discuss as that being a recommendation for, like an annual survey or something like that. So
Liam, I'm wondering, we had to close the survey in order to be able to develop a report for all of you for next week. But I'm wondering if we couldn't unofficially let this week when we provide the materials, if we couldn't give them the questions of that survey. So like Sam said, to send it out and query some of the members of their networks, if they couldn't use that in an unofficial capacity and in more informally gather some information, if that would be helpful, Sam, something like that. Would that be helpful? Or
yeah, no, that'd be great.
So maybe we could just get them the list of the questions that we asked in that survey.
Yeah, I can, what I can do is I can kind of make a version 2 of it. And so we'll be able to identify, that first initial responses, and I can use that data set to build out the report that I'll present to you. But if you want to use that kind of that second version, same questions, same everything, then you can kind of send that out to your, others that you kind of work with, just to collect your own kind of essence of responses to that. And I can try to get that to you hopefully tomorrow, if that's interest.
Yeah, thank you.
We don't have any kind of more questions kind of regarding the roles and responsibilities there, kind of what those resources that will be available. I'll touch a little bit. I know we're running a little short on time, but I'll touch a little bit on meeting logistics. I've been in communication with most of you in regards to kind of how next week will look. 3-day in-person meetings. We'll have a finalized agenda available to you later this week, but if you're coming in Tuesday, you'll have a accommodation set up for you. If you're coming from out of town, we convene on Monday or Wednesday morning and work through Wednesday throughout the day. We're looking at possibly trying to find some space for all of us to kind of meet and have dinner, either Wednesday, possibly Thursday evening as well, just a little more informal. And then Thursday would look pretty similar to how Wednesday looked, working through the SDM process, which we'll touch on here in just a second. And then Friday, we'll kind of wrap up things, wrapping up around 3:30 in the afternoon. The first meeting on Wednesday will be at the DNRC Montana room. I'll make sure to get out kind of directions to that space. And then the Thursday and Friday will be at the Montana Wild Center, just a little bit outside of kind of the city limits there in Helena. So that's kind of, I've asked, we'll be doing lunches for you each day. We'll have coffee and beverages available there at the meeting rooms. Last week, you kind of sort out your breakfast. If you're coming from out of town, everyone will be, you have your own rooms, but you'll be at the Hilton downtown. I'm trying to think if they have any other logistical pieces. The meetings will be via Zoom, so we'll have other general public attendees kind of listening into the conversations you have, as well as the opportunities for them to provide public comment on your discussions.
And I would add there might be attendees in the public in person. We have to allow for that as an open meeting law. So there might be other members of the public. We will be noticing them that at the beginning of the meeting, it is a very structured process that you'll be going through. So they will not be able to actually interactively participate with you guys except for during the public comment part, just like at our commission meetings.
Thanks for that clarification, Deb. And I think that kind of, I've heard from most of you. I might reach out to a couple of you. I haven't got confirmation on accommodations, but I'll reach out to you individually there. And feel free to, as always, kind of contact me if you have any other questions about that. And then I will maybe we'll have, I see Scott was able to join us, so maybe we'll do a quick introduction, allow you, Scott, to introduce yourself, and then Sarah, I'll pass it over to you for a quick SDM overview.
All right. Thanks, Liam. Sorry, I apologize to everyone for coming in late. I was out guiding and I ran a little bit over. But Scott Vollmer, I am a fishing outfitter out of the Gallatin Gateway Four Corners area. I utilize a lot of rivers in the state. I'm kind of what you would call a generalist. I don't necessarily hit one river, but I hit several. I have a Madison SRP. I also have a Blackfoot SRP at Missouri, Yellowstone, Clark Fork. I fish a lot of different rivers. I also am pretty active in industry concerns. I am the vice president of the Montana Outfitters and Guides Association, MOGA, and I'm also the outfitter representative on the Montana Travel Association. So I kind of have my ear close to the ground when it comes to industry concerns. That's me. I'll keep it quick. Sorry again for being late.
Thank you, Scott. We had one quick question from maybe Robert before we move on to Sarah.
Thank you. Timing for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday meetings. Can you just give us a heads up on when we start, when we finish, at least projected?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Yeah, sorry for breezing over that. Yeah, so 9 a.m. on Wednesday, and Sarah, correct me if I'm trying to pull up the agenda that we had drafted. But yeah,
8:30 a.m.
8:30. Okay.
Yes.
So 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday at the DNRC room, and then 8:30 on Thursday, and then we're going to do an early start on Friday at 8 a.m. At the Montana Wild. So both Wednesday and Thursday will go to 5 p.m. And then Friday we will close out a little bit earlier. So we'll have that detailed agenda, plus kind of those instructions on how to get to those room spaces for you later this week.
All right, would you like me to do a super quick overview? So Liam already mentioned the acronym SDM. That stands for Structured Decision Making, and that's the process we're going to be using to go through this whole set of 3 days in our meeting. And so basically what that's going to do is help us work through what you all already alluded to is really a big, unwieldy kind of problem challenge that everyone is facing with river recreation in the state. So this is going to take us into really thinking about what we care about and what we'd like to see achieved in a perfect world. Of course, there is no such thing. So there's always going to be trade-offs involved, but we're going to be really thinking about backing up to like, how do you define what this problem really looks like? So we'll be writing a problem statement, as we call it, together, trying to just put onto paper what makes this such a challenging topic to make decisions about. And so that's going to take most of the first day. We're going to spend a couple hours the first day going through a lot of background info, but then we're going to dive into trying to kind of define this together as a group. And that's going to help clarify for everybody, all these different perspectives and the things that make this a challenge. And then by later that first day, we're going to dive into then trying to define what we care about achieving with decisions made about river recreation. So we're going to talk about these as being objectives, the things we hope to see as the outcomes of any decision made about river recreation. That'll take us into at least through the morning probably of day 2 on Thursday. And then we'll dive into actually like talking about the things we could do to achieve those objectives and solve the challenge of river recreation on different rivers and at regional levels and so on. So those alternatives are the things that people get really excited about, actually talking about the solutions to the problem, different ways we could solve it. And so we'll actually get to that by probably afternoon on day 2. And then we'll kind of keep revising these things and making sure that it looks like it all makes sense as you put it together, from talking about the problem through what we care about achieving to the possible solutions to the problem. So we're going to talk lots more about that. Y'all be experts by the end of next week. And it's going to be kind of a long process at times, I guarantee that, but also it's one that's really enlightening for everybody as we work through it. So yeah, I'll stop there for now.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we're really excited to have Sarah and her colleague, Sarah Bassing, both of them to help facilitate this process with you guys, and really looking forward to it. I think I had one question. Robert, did you have one more question? No. Okay. And so, yeah, kind of looking forward. We'll be in communication with all of the agenda items, all that information on kind of the logistics of getting to those spaces. I'll have, reach out to you if I need anything else prior to that. Keep an eye out for some of those initial documents and informational materials that we'll present to you kind of later this week. And then with that expectation that you'll kind of have a summary report from the survey and the workshops presented to you at the beginning of the in-person meetings next week. And then Sam, and I'll send this to Sam, and I'll just send this to all the whole committee, but I'll have kind of that second version of the survey if you want to kind of reach out to your other public members that you would like to solicit some information from. So, yeah, I think that's kind of captures most of what we needed to discuss today. We will provide here 5-10 minutes for anyone on the call that's outside of the RAC members here. If you have any public comment, if you could go ahead and raise your hand, we'll go ahead and unmute you and allow for you to speak. So if there's anyone from outside the council here that would like to provide a comment, please go ahead and raise your hand at this time.
I don't see any hands raised. Any members of the public that would like to provide a comment? I'm not seeing any hands raised, so if the council has any more questions, we'd be happy to entertain those as well. Well, seeing none, keep a lookout in your email for a bunch of materials coming from Liam this week, as well as, you know, directions and logistics for where you're staying and when we're starting. Let us know if you have any dietary restrictions. Please let Liam know, and if not, we will just get you some information, and we will see you next Wednesday. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Liam, good job. There's a couple members of the public still on, so we will see you. Well, I'll be back in the office on Wednesday, but I'm available all day tomorrow.